Hey, what's up, guys? This is Benny Ricciardi with rotocurve.com, and I'm here with our DraftKings defense picks for week 4. I normally try to give you guys I normally try to give you guys 5 options so that you have somewhere that you can go at the high end, the low end, the medium end. But today, there's really 3 teams that stand out so far above everybody else that they're really the only 3 I'm going to mention this week because they're going to be the 3 that I'm going to try to use on almost every one of my rosters if I can fit them in. The first one I'm going to talk about is going to be Seattle. Seattle's at home again, favored by 9 against Detroit, in another one of those games that they have to win as their record is only 1-2 and they have dreams of making it back to the Super Bowl. Detroit has allowed over 2 sacks a game and 2.5 turnovers a game, and they've only averaged 18 points as a team. So it's not like this offense is really clicking, and they have been giving up some decent fantasy scores to opposing defenses. They have the lowest Vegas number for Sunday at only 16.5 points expected. And honestly, they might even be below that based on the way the Seahawks played last week against that Bears team. If the Seahawks can get a lead in this one, they should force Detroit into having to throw the ball. And that's where they're really going to be able to rack up the fantasy points. They should end up with a couple sacks, hopefully a couple picks against Stafford at this stage of his, basically at this stage of his development. I mean, he hasn't been very good this year. And on top of that, they should be able to hopefully maybe get into the end zone or get a whole bunch of turnovers and really put up a high score. I also don't think they're going to give up a lot of points being a big favorite at home. So I do think that there's a chance that they could have one of the top scores as they did last week. My problem is the price is up on them, especially on DraftKings, and they're going to be very highly owned. But they do make for one of the chalk defenses of the week and definitely somebody that I would look at to put into some of my rosters. The next team I want to talk about, though, is probably the team that I like the most, and that's going to be Denver. Denver's at home, favored by 6 against Minnesota. In the last 3 games, they've scored 16, 22, and 16 fantasy points. So basically, they're like a low-end RB1 or a high-end RB2 at this point. And when you can get that out of your defense for like $3,000, if you told me there was a running back that could get me 15 to 20 points for $3,000, he's going to be in most, if not all, of my rosters. So if you have a defense that's able to do that for you, you plug up a spot that's usually really hard to fill, and also at the same time are giving yourself a nice floor and a nice ceiling based on what they've been able to do lately. They do have that high floor because I don't expect them to give up a lot of points here, and they do get a lot of sacks. DeMarcus Ware coming off the edge for them is just, he looks like he's 5 years younger right now and is just absolutely unstoppable on that outside. I don't think Minnesota's line is very good with the pass blocking, and I definitely don't want a game where Teddy Bridgewater is going to have to drop back and beat a team, and I think that's what might happen here. Minnie has to run the ball in order to really open up the play action passing and make life a lot easier on a guy like Bridgewater. When they get down, as they did in week 1 against San Francisco, we see what can happen to them. They quickly fall apart. They're not a team that's built to play that way. So if you can get some points on them and then pin back your ears and go after the quarterback, you can definitely force Bridgewater into making some mistakes, and that's going to add up to a lot of fantasy points pretty quick for you. So this Denver team at 3,300, like I said, if you could find a running back or a wide receiver at 3,300 that was basically getting you 15 to 20 points a game, he would be in your roster and you wouldn't even think about it. So if you could find that out of a defense for that price, cover up a spot that's always tough to fill up for you, I mean, there's really no reason not to play this team. They have a high floor for cash games. They also have a high ceiling because they could pick off Bridgewater and run something back, something that they have done a couple times already. They could also wind up with 6 or 7 sacks. So this is definitely a game that I want to be targeting and definitely a team I want to be using, especially as a favorite at home, which is something we always like out of our defenses. And the third defense we're going to talk about, excuse me, is going to be that Arizona Cardinals defense. Again, they're home. They're favored against the Rams. In the last 2 weeks, they've given up less than 500 total yards. Last week, they only gave up about 160 total yards to San Francisco. And the week before, they played the Bears. Now, I understand neither one of those teams are world beaters. Those aren't great offenses. But they play St. Louis this week, who also doesn't have a great offense. You're talking about Foles at quarterback, a running back trio of Benny Cunningham handling third down work with Trey Mason and Todd Gurley on the early downs. Both are guys that have a little bit of talent, but the O-line for that Rams team has been horrible this year. So they haven't been getting a lot of running room. They haven't been able to get anything going on the ground, and that's forcing them to pass. When they do have to pass, I mean, their best pass catcher is probably Jared Cook, who burned a lot of people last week with only 1 catch for 7 yards. I mean, you got guys like Kenny Britt, Tavon Austin, none Stedman Bailey. I mean, nothing about this offense is really going to scare me on the outside. Arizona does play a very aggressive style of football. They do blitz a lot. They try to go after the quarterback. And if they're able to get a lead and they can pin their ears back and do that, they have been able to pick up some sacks. They have been able to force turnovers the past couple of weeks. And they have been able to take those turnovers to the house for 6 points. Now, that's the one reason why I'm a little bit hesitant on them. I feel like people are going to see those big numbers they had the last couple of weeks and, just automatically use them. So I think they could be pretty highly owned. You have to remember, you can kind of predict game flow. You can predict the team being in a good spot for sacks and interceptions and fumbles, but you can't really predict that they're going to run them back. I mean, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. If you get a pick in the flat with nobody in front of you, it's very easy to return it for 6. If they're throwing the ball downfield and you're picking off passes downfield and you got to weave your way through, 9 or 10 defenders to get into the end zone, you're still going to get the point for the interception, which is something that we can kind of predict we're going to see. But you can't always predict that they're going to run it back. So just be tempered a little bit when you see the points that they've had the last couple of weeks. They have played well. They have gotten sacks and turnovers. But a big part of those points is something, that you really can't count on week by week, and that's defensive touchdowns. Although they are in a good spot, when you have a team that's in a good spot to get a lot of turnovers, obviously that increases their chances of taking one of them to the house. So I do like Arizona as well. I'm hoping they're not going to be very highly owned. If they are, I would probably come off them. But I mean, for a cash game, I think all three of these teams are very safe for a cash game, and all three of these teams have big upside for a tournament. So safe floors, high upside, low price. That's exactly what we're looking for. And because the pricing on defenses on DraftKings is so low, I mean, I think you only have about a $1,200 difference from the top price defense in the Seahawks to some of the bottom price defenses in like the $2,500 range, whoever that may be. So since it's all bunched together, it's not like you can't figure out a way to get that $1,200 or the $400 or $500 you need to get a better defense. So I do think it makes sense to pay up for some of these stud defenses this week. So on DraftKings, I'm probably going to have some Seattle. I'll probably have a lot of Denver, and I'll probably have a lot of Arizona in my tournaments. Haven't decided which one I'm going to be using in cash, but you can pretty much bet that one of those 3 teams is also going to be my cash game defense this week. Like I said, I think those 3 are just head and shoulders above everybody else. There are some other ones that I'll mention to you, but again, I think they all have some chinks in the armor, unlike the top 3. You can look at the Carolina Panthers against Jameis Winston, but Winston's been playing better, not turning the ball over, and that game may be very run heavy on both sides, so you don't get a lot of scoring chances. Cincinnati Bengals against KC. I do like this Bengals defense. I like they're at home. I like that they're favored, but it's not like KC's offense is horrible, and Alex Smith hasn't been turning the ball over a ton. So I don't really see a huge upside for them either. You got Buffalo against the Giants. I do think that Buffalo will get some pressure on Eli, maybe even force some turnovers. But I also think the Giants will get some points as well. So I don't see this as being a lockdown kind of game. The Packers, again, their defense has always given up a couple points, even though they do get a couple sacks and they do some positive things. The Raiders, I think, could be in a decent spot here today, as well as the New Orleans Saints. But again, neither one of these teams is huge world beater kind of defense that I want to stake a big money tournament on. I'd rather stay with the ones that I know, the ones that I think have a safe floor, and the ones that have good upside. And for me, that's Seattle, Denver, and Arizona this week. So head and shoulders above everybody else. Those are the 3 I'm looking at. Those are the 3 I think you guys should take a deep look at. And, like I said, roll with whichever one you like the most. I think all 3 are in good spots. So that has been our DraftKings defense video for week 4. Thank you guys for joining us here at RotoCurve. And as always, stay classy, DFS.